How's it going, everybody? ZBilbs back here with another video, and today I've got a little bit of an impromptu topic, and that is going to be about Elden Ring. Now, I was debating making this video for a while because, for one, most of my gaming videos don't really get much views. Two, Elden Ring has been out for a long time now, and it's kind of a dying topic, but I just had a lot of thoughts on my mind, and I just decided to get it out there. Just what the heck. And so pretty much, if you've read the title, I believe that there's a problem with Elden Ring that most people aren't discussing when they talk about it. Now, I'm just gonna sort of go out and lay out my viewpoint on this, but I'd like to say, before I get into it, that I've been playing Elden Ring for a while. I haven't beaten it yet. I'm like 80 hours into it. I think it's an absolutely amazing game. Um, there's just so much content, such a variety of things to do and ways to play. It's an absolutely excellent game. But I'm not gonna pretend like it's a perfect game and there aren't any significant problems. And obviously that's what my video is about. There's been one problem that's been sort of just nagging me and just sticking with me at my time through. It's kind of bothersome, and I feel like most people aren't really talking about this problem, which is why I'm gonna lay it out for y'all today. So pretty much the gist of my main problem with Elden Ring so far can kind of be summed up if any of you watch Video Game Donkey. He had a review for Elden Ring where he's like, oh, it's a great game, but the balancing just is not there, and obviously he's very satirical on how he does his takes. And that's definitely one of my main criticisms is the balancing. It just feels like he says in his video, you get to a point in the game where you find a weapon, and it's like a good enough weapon that you stick with that weapon, and there's not really much reason to switch out to other weapons just because of how stingy kind of the upgrade system is, how much, at least in the early game, you need a lot of smithing stones, you need a lot of runes, so it's just a far too big of an investment until you get to the late game when you get enough consistently runes and smithing stones where you can do those switches. But like for me, as my character, in the early game, I went through like a number of different weapons because at that point, you have barely any upgrades to them, so you could just switch through. Eventually, I found I used the grafted dragon head, and that one, because it's somber smithing stones, it was easy to upgrade. And from there, pretty much through the mid game, all the way to where I am now, which I'm pretty sure I'm somewhere like 2/3, 3/4 of the way through. I'm in Lane-Dell. And kind of the main problem is that, there's so many weapons and ways to play in this game, and I'm all like, oh, I'd love to try out all of these different fun weapons. And for a couple times, I have like I've switched to a different weapon, I've upgraded it and done all of that stuff, and then I tried out for a bit, and it's such a big investment just off the bat of putting the runes and the smithing stones to get it up to that viable level when you're in that mid-game tier and you've already got an upgraded weapon. And then just the skill curve of actually learning how to use that weapon, because I was using the grafted dragon, I was trying out some higher strength weapons, and it's just such a big learning curve of going from this weapon to this weapon. And obviously, if you're a pro Souls player, that's not going to be a problem for you. Not for me. Elden Ring has actually been sort of my first Souls game. I dipped my toe in a little in Dark Souls, but it's neither here nor there. So at the end of the day, for the average player, you're going to end up sticking with one weapon, and it's probably going to take you to majority of the rest of the game unless you find like an absolutely busted weapon, I suppose. But even then, it's hard to want to change and experiment with that weapon just because of how just stingy the game is on the upgrading system and just how hard it is in the game to actually encourage the player to try out different weapons. And I feel like this is definitely a miss when it comes to it, because how the game is designed, how it's so hard, it's always pushing you to use the best possible weapons and to use something you're most comfortable that you can survive with the best. And that's good. It leads to a lot of fun, a lot of creativity in combat, but it can also lead to just a lot of really tight design. It doesn't really encourage players to go out and try all these new fun weapons, which I think is just really a shame, because I really wanted to try different weapons, but I really just can't find a reason to when the current weapon is good enough. And every time I try a new weapon, it's like I'm set back to level one. So that's definitely a really big downside. Now, that being said, after laying out all of that, that is not that I do think it's a big issue. But it's not the issue that I don't think that people haven't been talking about. I think there has been a relatively big discussion about balancing and difficulty. Generally, I would say difficulty so far, there's some cheesy stuff, but it's kind of like you know what you're getting into when you get to From Software. I think having a difficulty slider would defeat the point, and I think the difficulty is perfectly fine. I think balancing needs to be tweaked here and there. Maybe a couple of like enemies' abilities shouldn't be so punishing, but mostly the balancing. I just think weapon balancing needs to be scaled far better, make it easier to actually encourage the player to change up the weapons a little bit. I don't know, even playing field for certain weapons, because it's like once you find a really good weapon, you're not going to try out any of the other weapons. So I think there does need to be a little bit of a better balance in how good the weapons are. But this transitions from weapon balancing into what my real big issue is, and that's just the fact that video games should not force players to have to look up walkthroughs and guides. That's kind of the main point of the issue that I have with it. Now, that being said, you can absolutely play through Elden Ring without looking up a single walkthrough, a single guide, and you totally have fun with it and be great. Now, I'm coming at the perspective here of an average gamer. I'm not a hardcore Souls player, and for me, like the game is structured in a way that already it's super fun structure. It's not all the crappy Ubisoft points all over the map. It's hand holding you. It's very non-restricting. You can go wherever, you can do whatever. There's no quest log, no anything, and so it's really nice and refreshing. That being said, this open-ended structure definitely leads to some drawbacks, as there's a give and take with every type of system. And for me, the drawbacks when it comes to this massive open-ended, go whatever, do whatever, is that a lot of the times it can lead to some really obtuse quest designs, map locations. So many times in the game, I'll be like, okay, I want to progress this quest, but where do I go and what do I do to do that? I just have no idea what to do. And, logically you could be like, oh yeah, just go and explore the map and maybe you'll find them eventually, or, retrace your steps and whatever. And a few times, I keep exploring and I just keep progressing the story and I'm going and going and going. I'm like, okay, well, where is that certain character that I need to find? And by the time I eventually find that character, I've already gone too far in the main story that I've made it, I've gone past certain story points that I needed to do to actually, do that thing with that character. And the thing is, that I wouldn't even know that I would have gotten past those story points if, one, I didn't actually look it up and see that it told me that I'd gotten past those story points. This is all kind of obtuse, but I think you kind of get the gist. The main problem with Elden Ring is that it almost feels like for the average player, there's almost no possible chance that you can just get through and find all of these different quests and progress all the way through the different quests without looking up some sort of map or walkthrough or guide of some sort. And I've seen in the Elden Ring community, I think like Asmongold or something like that, I'm sorry if I got his name wrong, he was saying like one of the great credits to Elden Ring is that there's such a variety of quests and things, and as the game is out longer, that gives you more time of being able to look up all of these different stuff, and you can just look up where to go on the quests. You can look up what the best weapons are, where to find them, and that way you'll be able to beat the game easier. And for me, this is absolutely missing the point of what games should be. Games should not require you to go online as an essential to be able to progress in the game, as an essential of being able to find those best weapons that shouldn't even be essential weapons because of balancing, but I already touched on that. It should be a natural way of just finding them through the game, through the design of the game, and I think this is absolutely missing when it comes to Elden Ring, because for me personally, I absolutely hate that feeling like I have to look things up. I'm like, no, I want to figure it out myself. I don't want to feel like I'm forced to look things up online. I usually wait the absolute last possible moment where I'm like, okay, this is stupid. There's no possible way I'm going to figure this out on my own before I look it up. And when it comes to Elden Ring, the game is so massive. It is so huge. There's so many quests and weapons and everything that it almost feels impossible that if you miss out on one NPC in this one little nook or cranny here and there, that you will ever find them, at least for upon hours and hours and hours and hours. And for me, that is an absolute miss. Now, in their recent update, they did add like little NPC icons and stuff here and there, but they're still missing out on like the big overarching quest structure of you don't know what to do or where to go or how you can start a quest, how you can progress a quest, and the only NPC markers only show up if you actually find that NPC. Not completely new NPCs that you need to find to progress those quests. You absolutely 100% have to look up a guide online to be able to do that, which I think is just an absolute miss of what a video game should be. A video game should be a video game that is just a video game. It should just be a video game in itself, not a video game that has to go hand in hand with looking up guides and walkthroughs on the internet. For me, that absolutely misses the fundamental idea of what it means to be a video game. I know a lot of people that video games and internet kind of goes hand in hand, but it just doesn't quite sit right with me. Especially when I'm playing the game and I'm having fun and I'm like, okay, I'm doing the Ranny quest. Now, where do I go next? There's some sort of like vague dialogue about stuff here and there, but it's like, where do I find this certain thing here and there? And it's like, yeah, I could go ride around and the general area for hours and hours and hours and hours, but that's just going to be boring and tedious for me. And this game isn't boring and tedious, it's fun. The only way I can absolutely capitalize on the fun that I'm having in Elden Ring is to look up a guide telling me where to go, who to meet with, what to do. And for me, this is absolutely just, it's just not good structure. Like, I'm sorry. It's just, I can see why people would be totally okay with this, but I'm just not. Now, after laying all of that out, the question still remains, so what? So there's a structural problem when it comes to, quests and where to go and all of that. What do you do? How can you possibly fix the problem of not knowing where to go on so many of these things and missing all of these amazing things, and not take away the open-ended, just super fun nature of Elden Ring's open world? Because it kind of feels like, if you were to give like a quest log, if you were to give like little pointer markers, that would, you'd be treading into Ubisoft territory again, which absolutely nobody wants. I don't want. I think that's ridiculous. Ubisoft open worlds are terrible for a reason. And for me, like, I feel like there's some very simple fixes that you can do with this. And I think For one, although feel like people look down upon a quest log, I really don't think that there would be that much of a a detriment to the game in itself if you added a quest log of some sort, even if just like there's certain parts in the game where you already like get letters that tells you what to do. If after like a certain character or a certain something or another, you'll get a letter here and there that'll kind of give you an idea of where you might need to go. It might mark a point on your map in the letter, not on the actual map itself, so there's a billion markers here and there. Or it might give you a guide of the people. Maybe you could actually highlight, like, potentially once you find a map fragment, that it would highlight different NPCs in that map, so you actually know which characters to go. It's not highlighting the quest stuff here and there, but naturally you might want to go and visit those NPCs, and then you might start off on a quest, thing of some sort. I feel like there's a lot of different solutions to this problem that could still hold the integrity of the open-ended design, but wouldn't make it so stingent that it almost feels like there's absolutely no way that you can, get through the game without having to look up a walkthrough. So at the end of the day, that's about it for me. So pretty much, just summing it all up, Elden Ring is a great game. I honestly would probably give it like in the 9s range right now. So I know you could say, well, why are you whining about this if it's already a 9 game? It's because I love this game so much, and it really sucks that there are little things that I think are holding it back from being an absolute genuine masterpiece like this. So just fix the balancing, make it so weapons feel a little bit more on par with each other, and it encourages actually trying out new weapons a little better, and you're not just stuck with the same weapon for so long in the game. That just really kind of feels like it takes the point out of actually having so many weapons. I think it's a little bit different with magic, but magic is already too OP too. That needs to be balanced a little bit better in my opinion. But then also the main one, just have a little bit better design, make it so you actually know where you might need to go and do, not so it's like right in your face, but just give a little bit more of an idea, so I don't feel like I constantly have to take out my phone and look up a walkthrough so I can continue progressing with the quest without losing hours upon hours of just riding around all over the map trying to figure out what to do. But that is kind of the gist of it. I know a lot of you probably don't agree with this take, but if anybody watches this ever, we'll see. Comment below, let me know, do you agree with my take on this? Do you think that these are problems in Elden Ring? Do you think they're not? Explain why. And what do you think of Elden Ring overall? Are you having as much fun as I am? Do you think this game is a masterpiece? So just comment and let me know. We'll see. I might have some more videos soon, but that's about it. I'll see you later.